Hello and welcome to DudeCast TV. I'm your host, I'm a Dexter, I'm a dude who's going to talk about some shit. And today's episode is going to be short because I don't have the energy to go in on a particular subject right now. I've been preparing one, but something happened in my personal life in the last week that needs to be addressed. And I'll address that here because it is noteworthy and there is something to be said here. But we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming next week, hopefully. But this week, I just need time to recuperate, get some of my own shit together, and so on. The reason all of my day-to-day stuff was put to the back burner is because last week my mother was hospitalized. She was having stroke-like symptoms, and so they brought her in for vitals and everything, CT scans, MRI, a bunch of other scans, a bunch of other tests, tubes, pokes, and prods, you name it, they did it. And they found that she had 2 minor strokes. They don't know when they happened. They don't seem super recent, but they did happen. And the fact of the matter is she's just been working way too much. She works 3rd shift. She gets anywhere from 10 to 20 hours of overtime every single week. Because she has to, because she likes it. She takes pride in her work. She works very hard. One of the number one things she'll do when we're at a family get-together is people will ask if she's been to bed yet, and she will say with pride, nope, worked 16 last night, and here I am, not been to bed yet, going back at 10 tonight, routinely getting between 2 and 5 hours of sleep. She'll be 59 next month, and you can do stuff like that in your 20s. You can't do it when you're almost 60. Now, she's a force of nature, for sure. I've always joked around for years that she's too stubborn to die. However, that doesn't mean she needs to go and test that theory. This is not the call I expected to get Wednesday morning last week. My dad called me and told me, and I was shocked, actually. I was a mess all day because my dad is 7 years older than my mom. And my mom is in really spectacular health, if I'm being completely honest. I would expect this more from my younger brother, who is 26 years old, than I would from my own mother. That's how out of left field this was for me. She's okay. There's no long-lasting side effects, but the prospect of losing my mother this early in my life, I'll be 30 this year. I was not ready for that. Given how ready can one be to lose their mother? That being said, I've somewhat been prepared for deaths in my life. My grandmother passed away sometime in the middle of the second half of 2020 during the pandemic. And I was pretty prepared for that. She was in a home, she wasn't doing well. I was able to have my final talks with her over the years that she was still able to talk back and have conversation. In fact, she had a stroke a while back. She ended up living another few years after the stroke, but we thought that that was going to be one of her final nights. So I went over there and I had a good conversation with her, and from then on, I was prepared for her to pass. Luckily, we got a few more years with her, and then she did. But for that one, I didn't really cry or tear up too much. A little bit at the actual funeral, but when I saw her in the casket, I just kind of smiled because she finally seemed like she was at peace. She lived a long, happy life. She did everything she ever wanted to do. Now she was no longer suffering. She never complained. So I was ready for that. And to some extent, if my father passed away tonight, I would definitely be destroyed. However, I wouldn't have regrets. I would not have regrets. My father and I have had a very good relationship my entire life. And I feel that everything I've done with my life, I have absolutely made him proud, all those things that you would want between a son and a father, I feel like we have. And I, again, would be distraught, to say the least. My whole world would be upended if I lost my father. But again, I feel somewhat prepared because he's going to be 67 this coming year. He's getting a little older. He's not in the best health. He's still okay. He still gets around. He doesn't have any issues. He doesn't need a walker or a cane or anything like that. But, he's getting older, and I've come to terms with the fact that something may happen. It's something that is within the realm of possibility. I want him to live another 30, 40 years, and hopefully he will. However, if something were to happen, it would not be all that surprising. My mom, on the other hand, never would I have expected this. And it really threw me off. And the reason I am talking about this on a podcast is partially because, as I've mentioned in my previous episodes, this is sort of like a journal for me to get my thoughts out. But also, I think it's key for anybody watching this, all 6 of you, that you realize that you can never take anything for granted. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job and your income, your house, tornadoes, floods, whatever, your friendships, your pets, or your parents. You can't take them for granted. Now, when this happened, my dad, my brother, and even my mom were all downplaying it. They were all acting like everything was fine because she was acting fine. She wasn't really presenting any symptoms other than what initially sent her to the hospital, which was she had problems taking the words in her head and putting them into her work login or enunciating the words properly. And that subsided after a while. And so she felt fine. She was ready to go home. Here's everything you need to know about my mom. When she was 8 months pregnant with me, she was cutting the grass. And she started getting what she thought was gas pain. Finished cutting the grass and went inside, showered, and laid down. Those were labor pains. She went into labor with me 4 weeks early, but she thought I was gas. And she kept cutting the grass. Went inside, showered, and laid down, hoping it would make her feel better. That's the type of woman she is. More of an idea. I finally spoke to her on Wednesday, after hearing all this news and calming down myself. She tells me she's pissed off because she planned on cutting the grass that day, and now she can't because she's going to be stuck there for at least 24 hours. She ended up staying 3 days. And then in the next breath, she goes, well, at least I don't have work tomorrow, so that way I won't have to miss work. She's been paying rent since she was 13 years old. Okay? She had to get a job at 13 to help her parents and family pay the bills. She has always worked. And she takes a lot of pride. It's a big piece of who she is, that she can work so hard. It's one of the reasons I work as hard as I do. And her and I are extremely alike. More than her and I would ever like to admit. It's one of the reasons why we butt heads so much. But like I said with my father, if he were to pass, I wouldn't really have any regrets. My mother, on the other hand, I have only recently been able to really respect and appreciate all that she is doing for me now currently and has done for me in the past. The reason it took me so long, almost 30 years to see it, is because it was just there as a constant. And I took it for granted. But thankfully, over the last couple of years, I started to realize just how much I appreciate the small things she has done and will continue to do for me until she is no longer able. And the reason why it was so distressing for me to get this news is partially because there's a lot that I would regret if I lost her this early. But the other thing is, my mind immediately goes to worst case scenarios and starts problem solving. And so I'm now thinking about everything in my life that she's no longer around to help me with, number one. Number two, I'm thinking about everything I've never said to her that I wish I could, and how much I wish I could have treated her better or had more time to treat her better, because I did spend so much of my life taking her for granted. And number three, and I told her this over the phone and it made her laugh, I said, you cannot leave the three of us, my dad, my brother, and I, this early. Because if you do, who's going to take care of the two of them if not me? Those two are completely fucking useless without you. And I ain't got time for that shit. Which got a good gut-bursting laugh out of her, and she told them, and they laughed too, because it's true. The fact of the matter is, if she's not there cleaning and cooking and taking care of the house, while also working a full-time job with 10 to 20 hours of overtime every week, if she's not there to do that, they won't cook, they won't go grocery shopping. No, they just go out and get McDonald's or some other fast food, bring it home, eat what they want, put the leftovers in the fridge, but she hates wasting food, so she'll eat their leftovers. It's one of the reasons why her health has deteriorated, because she's eating the shit food that they bring home as leftovers, because she doesn't want anything to go to waste. Like I said, she's been working since she was 13. She's always been a penny pusher. She always does Groupons and coupons. She always is looking for a deal. Now we have to try and change some things. The issue is that she is so thick-headed, she is so stubborn, that getting her to change anything is going to be pulling teeth. That's where I come in, and that's where I'm going to try and make changes. But I've figured that the only way she will change is if I get my brother and my dad to also change. Both of them live with her. Parents are still happily married. My brother still lives at home. Thankfully, I've already gotten my brother to make some changes. He's working. He is working out. He's eating healthier. I just need to get my dad on board, and then my mom will follow suit. You would think, having a son with a background in dietetics as a bachelor's and exercise science as a master's, who has only been a personal trainer and nutritionist for the last 12 years and his entire career, you'd think that that would be an ace in the hole. No. It works to my detriment. I'm the last person on earth that they want to listen to because I'm their son. Any professional that has parents that would like to advise them on whatever their profession is in, whatever their expertise may be, they will relate to what I just said more than you will ever know. There's not much else for me to say. Like I said, this is going to be a short one today because there's not much on the subject to share other than what I've already shared. But I wanted to end today with a very simple ask, please. Please, please, please. I don't need your thoughts and prayers. I don't need you to reach out and see if I'm okay. Doing fine. She's okay. Everybody's all right. What I need from you, what I am asking of you, is for you to call your parents. If you are lucky enough to still have both or one of them, tell them that you love them and go out of your way to spend time with them. There's a famous interview of Jesse Itzler and some interviewer. I don't know who it was, but Jesse Itzler he's a famous motivational guy who became successful, millionaire, or whatever. And he asked the interviewer, how often do you see your parents? He goes, once or twice a year. And Jesse goes, okay. And realistically, not to be morbid, but how long do you think they have left? How many good years do you think they have left? He goes, probably about 10. Jesse goes, so you're only going to see your parents between 10 and 20 more times in their lifetime. And the interviewer looked at him and goes, fuck me. It's not what he said, but that's what his face said. Don't make that mistake. Your parents are only here for so long. So if you're lucky enough to still have them, please go visit them. And if they have passed, and you miss them, say a prayer or go visit their grave, or if you have them cremated on your mantle in a vase or some shit, an urn rather, then just take a minute to reminisce and show gratitude for the life that they provided for you. That's what I ask for. Give thanks for your parents. Now, for those of you who had shitbag disaster parents, I know some of you may or may not be watching this, find someone else in your life that means the world to you, that you know you've taken for granted. Call them, tell them you love them, tell them you appreciate them and all that they do for you. It could be your wife, it could even be an ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, husband, whatever. It could be your kids, it could be a friend, it might be your dog. I don't care. Just show the appreciation, show the gratitude. And if you have regrets, do your best to move forward in a way that lessens or completely nulls those regrets from existence. I have a lot of goals in my life. I mentioned recently about the gym that I'm building and how it's a dream come true. I have a new goal. I have a goal to get to a point of self-sustenance where everything that my mom does for me, I know how she does it. I know when she does it, where she goes to do it, how she goes about doing all of these things in her day-to-day while working 50, 60 hours a week. I'm going to learn everything she does. I'm going to appreciate everything she does. Thank her profusely, more so than I ever have, for everything she does. Love her harder than I ever have. My new goal is to figure out what she does day to day for me and my family so that I can not only fully appreciate her for it, but one day when she is gone, I make sure that all the hard work she put in for all these years, all these decades, isn't forgotten, but is continued. That the investment of her life is not left to decay, so that everything she has spent her life building can continue to be built upon. My life, father's life, and my brother's life. Everything involved. So my new goal, learn her true impact and then begin to replicate it myself so that one day when she can no longer do